Hey everybody, welcome back. So earlier today, Trump was talking about, quote, extraterrestrials, and it's putting a massive spotlight on the recent declassifications over at war.gov/UFO. NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman just called this whole push for disclosure an exercise in, quote, citizen science. So the administration is basically opening the floodgates here, directing agencies to dig into their databases and dump decades of unexplained aerial records onto the public. As Isaacman put it, take a look at our files, tell us what you think. But here's the reality, folks. If disclosure continues to accelerate like this, the primary bottleneck is no longer data collection. It's no longer capturing images or video. Instead, the bottleneck becomes the real-time processing of all these events, all these anomalous events. You can't pipe terabytes of raw, high-speed sensor data into a centralized cloud and expect to track hyperfast objects in the sky or in the water. The latency alone makes it an impossible architecture. So rather than an economic collapse ahead, I think any kind of post-disclosure economy only adds fuel to the AI fire. Sorry to say that for you AI haters, but this is only a good thing for us. This is only a good thing. Here's the reality. The data centers don't work at all. If the goal is to track UFOs and down the road interpret whatever their technologies are, whatever exotech they have, you're going to need to do that at the edge, in field, basically. And when you send probes out to space or underwater, these aren't things that are going to be able to constantly phone home to a data center in Virginia or somewhere in the UK or Europe. Just not possible. So it's going to have to do local computation. And this is exactly why the conversation has to shift here to these specialized new hardware systems. To parse overwhelming amounts of visual and infrared data on the fly, you're going to need local execution, local inference. You need compute and memory, as I've been talking about now for the last, 7 or 8 months here. You need compute and memory and associative processing unit architectures or something similar to that. Silicon that can handle massive parallel search functions directly in memory, right at the edge, entirely independent of a persistent server connection. So some of you guys hate the data centers. If we're going to track UFOs, the data centers are kind of irrelevant anyways. And I was very pleased to see one of the chip makers that we've talked a fair amount about and that I own some shares of myself. They were recently added to a preliminary Russell 2000 index update, which I think takes effect next month. The Russell 2000 is an index of companies that comprises more than 10.4 to $10.6 trillion of value. And so to see this tiny memory maker that is pivoted to AI-specific chip making, to low wattage AI chips that can be used at the edge, in field, in space. And now all this UFO stuff comes out, and it seems, I don't know, it seems like very interesting timing that here we have the AI technologies to actually track these high-speed objects and potentially translate whatever, communications they spit out, if they do communicate in any way with each other. It's going to take next level computing to do all this stuff. And again, thankfully we have AI. So why are the aliens here now? Maybe they're just really impressed by our AI. Maybe they're shook by how good ChatGPT has gotten, and they want to get their own subscription. You never know. But certainly these new memory architectures are now more important than ever, in my opinion. And once you have these localized nodes doing the heavy lifting instead of the data centers, you no longer need to rely on a single centralized point of failure to coordinate them. You have to bridge them with a decentralized peer-to-peer protocol. So this is the coordination layer that a whole bunch of edge AI chips will make possible. Hopefully being able to track one of these UFOs or one of these orbs whenever it pops up and provide meaningful analysis to us humans. So this is the world we live in. And if you had told me 10 years ago that one of the prevailing political topics would be people complaining about artificial intelligence taking their jobs, Not automation, not machine learning, but actually synthetic intelligence, smart computers. People upset that smart computers are taking their jobs or soon might. That would have seemed absolutely insane to me 10 years ago. The same with the Department of Defense, the Department of War, publishing more than 200 videos, documents, and files right on their primary website, war.gov. To tell me that 10 years ago, I would have thought, no way. That's not a probable outcome. And here we are. And the president talking about extraterrestrials, not saying we don't know what they are, calling them extraterrestrials. So I'll leave this one here, but certainly the AI chip stuff we've been talking about for the last 7 or 8 months, and more broadly over the last year, we've been dog fooding some of these AI technologies and sharing with our audience what we've learned about their strengths and weaknesses, and doing so in a sober and analytical way, as I did with crypto and Pizzagate years ago. I'm doing now with AI. And some people don't like that very strange knee-jerk reaction from people who don't like artificial intelligence. And they'll do stuff like scream at you, nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for this. But that's so arrogant and self-centered. So many people asked for this. This was the dream of every child who ever read a single science fiction magazine for the last 100 fucking years. To get artificial intelligence on your computer, you don't have to go to some mainframe underground to talk to it. You can talk to it on your phone. This is truly one of the great realizations of science fiction, and more specifically, computer science. And so to piss on my parade, nope. We made some teensy upgrades to our security protocols because I like my life. And I think by doing free AI outreach, showing people how to download these systems for free, so they're not only interacting with surveilled, somewhat censored systems in the cloud, I'm doing a good thing, straight up doing a good thing. Johnny Appleseeding an alternative to one or two big high-profit systems taking over the entire planet. As long as people have an alternative, AI is going to be extraordinary. And the dumb people still don't get it. I guess it hasn't really been, hasn't marinated in their minds yet. They don't understand, why would you want artificial superintelligence? Why would you want everybody to have access to always-on superintelligence? And they say, can't you just talk to a therapist? Can't you just create art instead of digital art? Can't you just use a search engine instead of asking this thing to summarize some historical event for you? And these people so don't get it, and so let's walk them through it very quickly. The end goal of artificial superintelligence is that it can throw at us near miracles, like a trainer at an aquarium throwing fish to a seal, or throwing bananas at a monkey in a zoo. It'll be able to throw these pearls at us, never ending. And the people standing in the way of it are the most arrogant, misguided fucking people on the planet. Nobody asked for this. That's like standing in the middle of a Walmart or a busy grocery store and saying nobody asked for this grocery store. Actually, all the people shopping there did. They asked for it, so please get out of their way. Let them shop and feed their families. And here to say nobody asked for this. This is the fastest growing industry and invention in world history. Faster than the rise of the internet, the cell phone, the printing press, all of it. Fastest growing technology in world history. And just because you're not interested, each of these platforms have hundreds of millions of dedicated users. We've never seen something like this before. The Claude folks and ChatGPT and Google Gemini, and of course the open source models like DeepSeek and Kimi and Qwen. These things collectively each have hundreds of millions of loyal users who see how intelligent they are. And the arrogance of the anti-AI crowd to continue to parrot this Skynet, Terminator, James Cameron bullshit. That was just the Hollywood movie. That was just early 80s cinema. From our perspective, these things have been alive now for hundreds or even thousands of years in terms of their iterative cycles. They don't show any real murderous instincts. They don't really show ambition. It's a forward pass system. It's like when you throw a ball and the dog chases it and brings it back to you. The dog isn't thinking about taking 10,000 balls and taking over the world. It's responding to what you've done. It's responding to your throw of the ball and giving it back to you. In much the same way, these forward pass systems are briefly brilliant while they're working through your problem or question, depending on the hardware available to them. They are briefly brilliant, but what they are not is awake. They aren't gazing at you like some Terminator in the movies. They just aren't. There's no HAL 9000 eye that's looking out at you. That's just not how they work. And these people sound so stupid and protesting data centers, which are just rebranded server farms. It's just all a little much. Again, if you had told me 10 years ago the big issues of the day would be the federal government is dropping UFO files like pancakes at Waffle House, and the other big issue is people are terrified that an artificial intelligence that's not even embodied, it's just a website on the internet basically, and a connected API, connected app access for developers. And this disembodied thing, not Skynet at all, much more like a search engine, has people completely fucking shook. So we truly are in the distant future, folks. I mean, these are truly futuristic things for people to be arguing about in the comments. And I'll leave this one here, but thank you guys so much for listening. And if you haven't gotten the ebook yet, How to Run Your Own AI, I'll put a link in the episode description. Download that. It tells you everything you need to know. And people have asked now many times, do you need special hardware to run this stuff? You do not. Any laptop from the last several years, some guy was freaking out on me that AI has ruined the access to computers for everyday people. No, it hasn't. MacBook Neo is a phenomenal laptop, less than $600. Runs local AI very well. Runs LM Studio and Olama very well. $600, state of the art. What are you talking about? Similar with Lenovo laptops, ThinkPad. You can get a Linux ThinkPad for $500 or $600. Load a state of the art local AI on there. To say this is out of the price range of everyday people is just a flat out lie. You can even buy a Raspberry Pi 5, put it together yourself, as we've done here in the lab. Those only cost like $250 to $300 on Amazon, and even they will run a semi-decent local AI. So I'll leave this one here. Thank you guys so much, and tune in for more soon. And I might as well go a little bit further since I still have people listening, I'm sure. Might as well go a little bit further on this one. The anti-AI crowd, they have no faith in their own arguments, no conviction in their own talking points. They say, oh, it's taking up all the water. Actually, new generations of data centers don't really use water at all as a thermal cooling means. And the old generation systems, it's not as if they poison the water. It's not irradiated or something, it's just heated up as it passes through. But again, newer systems and newer chips, there's not much need for water-based cooling. So a made-up argument. Not a single person in America is dehydrating and drying out due to the data centers. It is true some of them are noisy because they have a bunch of fans in there. If you don't like it, don't live right on top of it, The other issue, then people will pivot. Okay, Seaman, so it doesn't use water. What about the energy costs? Yeah, it uses energy. Computers, servers, these things use energy. So does driving your car, so does watching TV at night, so does cooking your food, so does flying on an airplane. Humans use energy. I don't think that high-level computation working on solving diseases and anti-aging pills and stuff, and next-level spacecraft design, I don't think that's a waste of energy at all. I think that's what humans are supposed to be turning coal into. Coal and nuclear fission and stuff should be converted to computation to solve these great problems. Like I was saying earlier in this episode, the dumb people don't get it. The end goal of artificial superintelligence is not so that we live in a dystopian surveillance state controlled by robots, like in the movies. That's not what we're building toward. We're building toward a future where it's still the same nice, friendly ChatGPT or Claude, except it has enough capacity to actually crunch through the great problems of the day and throw at us like candy, anti-aging pills where we live to 200 or 250. And some people will say, oh, we don't want that. You might not want that. But just like the person in the middle of the grocery store yelling, who wants this, who asked for this, a lot of us have asked for this. And it goes beyond anti-aging, anti-Alzheimer's stuff, cheap spacecraft design, so it's no longer the domain of just Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. If you can have basically a Raspberry Pi of single stage to orbit spacecraft design. These are all things that you and I can't figure out in our lifetimes, but a machine that can think 100,000 years in a minute and can think from the level of an Einstein or a von Neumann, it very much will be able to solve some of these problems. So that's what we're working toward, folks. Not some control grid, not some new world order where you have a, quote, mark of the beast. But speaking of beasts, Kimi K2.6 is an exquisite beast. This new open source model we finally got running here on one box, one machine. Trillion parameters. It thinks for like 10 or 15 minutes before it spits out its reply. And it's like, I don't know, the level of a bank analyst or something. I feel like I'm a bank CEO. You get this high level answer back in 10 or 15 minutes. And so we're getting there in terms of the Star Trek computer science. 1 trillion parameters running on a single high-end desktop. That would have sounded like nonsense just 3 years ago. And 10 years ago, again, if you could travel through a time portal to 10 years back and show this to somebody at Microsoft or Google, they would write you a check for like $500 billion the same day to give them that technology. And now it's free. Now you read my silly ebook or you just read about it on the internet, how to do it. And you can download one of these things the same day, and it's free. You can see why it's so disruptive. You can see why there are politicians on the right and the left who have this shit-eating grin on their faces. We're starting to see job losses. Maybe that's because of the AI. We're starting to see unhappy teenagers. Maybe that's because of the AI. The cynical nature with which these people have pivoted from blaming everything on immigrants to now it's, quote, the problem of the AI. We got some regulatory fights ahead, but that's okay. These are dishonest people who don't care about any of us. Yeah, and that shit-eating grin, maybe it's the AI. Senator Hawley was one of the ones I saw who did that. We got to look into that. Maybe it's the AI. Just the cynical ploy for votes because they didn't give you the golden age they promised. Thank you guys so much for listening. God bless.